Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So, what I would like to talk about is branding. Branding is something that surrounds us. Every moment of our lives are surrounded by brand, from a company standpoint or from a personal standpoint. I am dressed the way I'm dressed because I want to be perceived as a little different. I'm not an engineer, my apologies. I'm not even in the HVAC industry. My wife is, who is the president of HVAC-R. Wave to the people, Sheila. So I wanted to talk to you about branding. So first to begin, what is a brand? A brand is your reputation. It's not just a logo, it's not just a color, and it's not just ads. It is what people say about you, how people feel about you. And what is branding? Branding comes from practices that produce trust. Trust is a commodity that is more valuable than money. Think about the brands that you have in your life. Are you going to stay at the Four Seasons Hotel, or would you stay at a hotel that you've never heard of before? You would stay at the Four Seasons because you know, you trust that they will take care of you. And the goal here is to get you and your companies to the point that people trust you. That's all branding does, is it builds trust and it builds that connectivity that when they're out shopping and you, in the HVAC world, it's not an exact commodity, but if I need equipment from one building, I'm assuming that most of the people here could help me out. So how would I choose from all of these people, everybody in this conference, everybody in the world? At some level, it comes down to trust and brand. Because I would want to buy equipment that I trust. Now, everything from the logos, processes, referrals, all of these things build up touch points. Every touch point builds that trust. So when somebody goes to your website, they're messaged in a consistent fashion. Every time they see an ad in a magazine, they get the same message, the same feel. All of these touch points build that trust. So it's a powerful way to think about how to position your business. Move down here, like that. So this brand will differentiate you. I mentioned before, if I wanted to buy HVAC equipment from somebody, I would have no idea where to start here unless I had seen messaging from someone that resonated with me. Somebody that spoke to my needs and my trust. And that is a big part of this. That trust provides a sustainable competitive advantage. Now, this is not something that you can do one-off. You have to maintain brand communication. You don't just do your logo and your color and a brochure and a website and say, I'm done, it's all good. You have to continually speak to people. You need to reach out and give them something that they can identify with repeatedly, over and over and over and over. Now, when you have a solid brand, this allows you to, one, not be in a commodity pricing environment. If you have a solid brand, people will pay a little bit more, maybe a lot more, for that trust. They will look at the security that you provide, or that, more importantly, that they think you provide, and they will pay more, which is an incredible place to be because, once again, it differentiates you. And it gets you in a position where you are the trusted advisor. Now, to get to a solid brand, you would need to do a brand focus session. And the brand focus session, you need to go out and talk to people. Talk to your friends. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you work with. And get their input on how they view you. How do they view you, your company, your product, your service? And not just your friends, but also go out and talk to people that are your competition. It's a little harder, but between the two of them, you will get a very clear view of how you're perceived in the marketplace. So deciding who you are and what you stand for. These are all critical things in developing a brand. So start with, we're the kind of company or person that what? Blank. Fill in that blank. You as a person, you as a company, what do you provide? What makes you stand out from the competition, from everybody else in your world? So identify strengths and weaknesses. Weaknesses, not always the easiest thing in the world to come up with, but if you're honest with yourself and you take a hard look, and this is where getting feedback from the people around you, if you can find out what your weaknesses are, you can step around them. You can make sure that your competition is not using your weaknesses against you. You can communicate your strengths, and you can diffuse the weaknesses before that turns into an issue. Hey, questions like, what do you care about in your business? What do you care about as a person? How does that translate into how you project? Here I am, I'm not in a suit, I'm in my flip-flops, because I want to project that I am relaxed, a little casual, and hopefully thinking outside of the box. And we all do this. Human nature, branding goes a little bit against human nature. If you look around in the room, you understood what this conference was, and so you all dressed appropriately, you're acting appropriately. Branding takes that to another step. So you would look around and see, okay, we have a lot of suit jackets. Can I wear a different color suit jacket, like that one, the yellowish one? I like that. He's standing up here, he stands out from a visual standpoint. Now, if he follows that up with behaving slightly different, not inappropriate and not outside of what's expected, but different than the majority of people, then he has made more of an impact. He has potential to make connections easier with the people that he's working with, everybody around him. Telling your story. All right, story has now become one of the brand new words, buzzwords in branding. Story is super important because think about everybody, the entire cultures of all the world are based on stories. We've listened to them as children, we listen to them as adults, we will go to movies, we watch TV. These are all stories. Stories work because they pull the audience in. They don't speak, and this is an irony here, with me up here speaking to you. The ideal brand starts a conversation. It is a two-way street. So even though I am up here just speaking to you, and I apologize, any brand communication in its ideal would sit down. It would sit down at this table and talk to these guys, and more importantly, listen to what they have to say. Because if you're not listening and you're not allowing your customers to put themselves into what you're offering, you're making it harder for them to connect to you. So in thinking about your brand, one exercise is to look at other brands around you. And this is an easy thing to do. We are surrounded by brand. Everything from our clothing to our cars to our phones to our computers. Everything is a brand that supports you and how you want to be perceived. Most brands are aspirational, as in, I am at this level in society, but branding lets people elevate themselves and project that they're in a better place. How can your brand be something that makes people go, my building has this equipment? Not just think about computers. Back in the 90s, Intel, the chip maker, did something that nobody had done before. They had talked about what was inside the computer. It was not the brand of the computer. It was what was inside. And it got to the point that every single PC in the world had Intel inside buttons on it. Up until then, nobody cared about the chip at all. They cared about, was it Dell, was it IBM, was it whatever. But Intel turned a negative, which is they are a little teeny chip that sits in there processing, they turned that into a desirable commodity. So if you came down to buying a computer, one had Intel inside, one was just whatever the computer manufacturers, you would gravitate towards Intel because Intel had been communicating that they made a superior product. They didn't do it in a technical fashion, and they didn't do it in a way that said, okay, we do this many processes, et cetera, et cetera. They communicated on an emotional basis. So if you look at all the communication that happened with Intel, it makes your life easier. It's an emotional connection. It's not, you can run 50 gazillion apps in the background. It's, wow, you got to leave work earlier today because your computer performed the way it was supposed to perform. They told their story about what they do in a way that was relatable, connectable. I was trying to come up with a joke this morning and it didn't work out, but this is sort of a brand technical session. A little ASHRAE jargon for Sheila. And I could have done flow charts, I could have done all of these things. But this is my technical. This is an emotional area. Everything about brand is emotion. And building that emotion is critical, it's key. So think about what kind of company or person do you want to be perceived as? Do you want to be trustworthy? Do you want to be cutting edge? Do you want to be solid? How do you want to be projected? That is the basis of how you start developing your story. Everything comes from that, because if you want to be cutting edge, then that means every decision that is made on communication and brand at each touch point. A touch point is every communication, web, whatever. If you want to be trustworthy, that means you're probably going to choose solid colors, nice, dark, heavy, things that make people feel good. You'll be using fonts that are solid, nothing trendy, nothing weird. Look at airlines. If the plane that shows up that you're flying on is super brightly colored with big, colorful logos on it, 10 to 1, it's going to be a low service, very inexpensive. They're combating their price point by making it look fun, whereas you go to Turkish Airlines and it's a little more expensive, but the customer experience is very, very different. So look at the brands around you to see what brand you like. Do you like BMW? Do you like Mercedes? Or do you want to be perceived as IBM? Look at what they're doing, because these are experts. They've been doing it for centuries, branding themselves and communicating what they feel, and getting their customers to feel the same thing. Critical. Have you all heard the phrase, you can't please everybody? Everybody heard that? You can't please everybody? Thank you. So pleasing everybody means that you're not connecting. Be a brand for somebody. You want that connection, that emotional connection with certain people. The world is big. There are a lot of people in it. If you're a huge company, you're going to have a hard time serving everybody. If you're a little teeny company, it would be impossible to serve everybody. So work on connecting with just those certain people that fit your brand. This means that you can stay on your messaging. You can provide exactly what these people are looking for because they've accepted your brand. So you have a common language between the two of you. Now, think about your brand is one brand blank that provides what benefit? So let's say HVAC. What is the one benefit that your brand provides? And these are all little research things that you go through, and it will help you develop a brand communication. So what does your brand do? What is the one thing? What is that benefit? And then on the flip side, you provide this benefit unlike your competitors. What do your competitors provide that you don't? There's always a way of finding a niche and communicating within that niche. what words do you want in the minds of your customers? When they see your brand, when they talk to your salespeople, when they interact with you, what do you want them to feel? What words do you want to go through their head? Do you want trustworthy? Do you want loyal? Do you want solid? Do you want inspirational? These are all starting points for developing your brand. Develop associations around your strengths and passions. Okay, my note, sorry. My note says, stop living with one foot on the brake. And what that means is that, and I see this all the time with 100% of my clients, that they're not always fully committed. They're looking at what is the potential out there for communication, and they're going, we can do this, but we're not going to go too far. Successful brands are people that do not hesitate. They look at the market, they define who they want to speak to, how they want to speak to them, and then they push. They continually push forward with their messaging. This is, and I need to emphasize this, it's not a one-time effort on the company's part to brand. This is an ongoing effort, and there is always pushback from this because that means you're spending money, granted, because you're hiring people like me to come in and we're going to spend your money. But if you hire somebody who is good at branding, who is good at communication, they will advise you and help you decide where that money should be spent and where your efforts will get the best response. And it is not a take the money, just go and have fun. It is a very targeted. As the world gets bigger and faster and communication gets easier and easier, and we have so many outlets for communication, you can focus. You can identify that customer from your own brand. Who are you? Who do you want to be? What is your ideal customer? You align with your strengths and you work on your weaknesses. Most of the brand, and this is from a personal or a company, there is at some point, somewhere, a passion, an identified passion for why are you here? You guys are in this niche industry that the outside world isn't that aware of. They're becoming more and more aware of it. But this gives you an opportunity to identify your passion. This gives you an opportunity to communicate why did you choose HVAC? Do you love the heating? Do you love the air conditioning? Do you love the shiny stuff? What is it about this industry that you love? And I can speak about Sheila because I'm married to her. So she wants to save the world. Not in a political sense, but in a energy pollution. She wants to make the world a cleaner, more energy efficient place. That's her brand. And that is where she bases all of her decisions on why she's involved in ASHRAE, because she can make a difference here. She can open it up to a bigger audience. All of her communication, if you listen to her, and sorry to use you as an example, if you listen to her speech, I hope you do, listen to how she speaks about things, when she gets passionate about it, when she starts to really emphasize what she's saying, that is her brand. That, if she was a company, would be the basis for all the communication. A branding person would come in, listen to what she had to say, and would start to build on when they saw that passion coming up. So think about what's your passion? What are you passionate about in this industry? In that story that we mentioned earlier, why is your passion relevant? It's not just that you like a certain thing, but how does that spin into a benefit for your customer? One thing, there are no rules in branding, there are just loads and loads of guidelines that can be bent and twisted. One of the big ones that I love is that, remember, it's not you selling to them, it's your customers are buying you. Why are they buying you? And when they're buying you, you have to reinforce why that is a relevant decision for them. speak to the value of it, and you go back to the stories. Tell stories about why your HVAC equipment is relevant, why it is the best decision, why it satisfies an emotional need with your customer. So a brand is a promise that is delivered. You organize your thinking around the delivery of that promise, and you just continue to clearly communicate. You perform, you organize all of the communication so that when your salespeople or when you're out talking to a customer, they're being communicated to in a consistent way. This streamlines it, and this gives you a way to adjust your brand also. If you're behaving in a consistent way in your messaging, and you notice that your market share is changing, either plus or minus, this gives you an opportunity off that baseline to go, okay, we are not hitting our market here. How are we not communicating with our people? Or how are we communicating well, it's getting a response, and how can we do more of that? So it requires you to hold communication within all of your organization. And this goes out to your friends, back to the earlier comment about having your immediate friends and colleagues around you tell you, what is your brand? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? It's an ongoing process. Commit to your brand. This is back to a lot of people approach branding with one foot on the brake. That's a tough way to work. You need to commit. You need to continually work on your brand. You develop ways to keep the conversations about your brand going. You make brand part of your company's management process. And you meet weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever makes sense for your organization, but you need to keep that as a significant part of how you run your company, how your organization works. Skills you'll need. You have to keep your promises, of course, because brand is right there. If somebody doesn't keep their promise, they've just wrecked their brand. As a company, you keep your promises, your brand gets stronger. You're proactive. You're out there talking to your customers, finding out what they need, how you can serve them, and how you can satisfy their emotional needs around HVAC. And this is, Sheila and I have had a lot of discussions on the lack of emotion in HVAC. You guys provide a critical aspect. We could not be in this room if it wasn't for HVAC. People aren't hearing that. That gives each and every one of you an opportunity to not communicate that you can keep a space at a certain humidity, a certain temperature, a certain load, whatever. It gives you an opportunity to talk about how you can influence people's lives. It all comes down to, if we are sweaty in here and uncomfortable, you couldn't do your work. But you've created an environment that allows people to live. So there's the emotion. You're comfortable, you're relaxed, you're more productive, you can get things done. Keep looking at, another thing with branding is that you keep looking at new ways to communicate. People love unexpected. There's a thing called a bump mailer in the US, and that is we could send you a postcard, blanket a whole city, and we could message it. The response rates on those are low, 0.5% maybe. But if you send out what's called a bump mailer, and that's a package, the response rates go up to 50%. The reason for that is that you cared enough to send something unique and different. How can you reach out to your customers and provide something unique and different? A salesperson shows up and they leave a brochure. Every salesperson shows up and leaves a brochure. What can be left behind that communicates what your company's brand is? And to really wrap up, it's hold to your story. You develop your story, you hold the story, and you evolve it as you go over time. Brand is possibly one of the most fuzzy of sciences. It's not a science, I think it's more of an art. But done correctly, think of all the iconic brands that you are surrounded with, and think about how you can become an iconic brand within your industry. And that is it. Any questions?
I have just a question.
Hold on a second, excuse me. Hello. I want to ask the first question.
He needs a talk show.
No,
Look at him. This is great. You talk about brand. He has the brand. This is fabulous.
I have a tough question coming for you.
Okay.
Okay. My question is, normally, I will try to explain it a bit. We try to go to an unknown market, and normally you start with offer to the company. You start with communication. After you will give an offer, if it's okay, you will come here. But the problem is country. The problem is country is, for example, Europe or United States, for example, there are foreign judgment. You know, they are just checking. Oh, brand from Turkey. I have to think about it. Is it brand from Germany or French? Okay, it's okay. You can take it. The foreign judgment is really unfair. I mean, almost before I send an offer to my customer, I have to send a sample just to provide. There is no big difference between your and my quality. How we can break this judgment?
I love that question.
Yeah.
That is brand in a nutshell right there.
That's a great question.
Did you hear the examples he gave? Companies from France, from Germany? Okay. Companies from Turkey? We don't know. So, think about Germany's brand. Germans tend to be, if we were going to fill in the blanks, they are precise, they are exact. I mean, absolutely exact. And they got that brand through producing products like BMW, and this is a thing where Turkey especially is not as well known, and this is speaking only purely from a U.S. standpoint. Yeah, we know you, but we don't know the manufacturing. We don't have that perception that Turkey is the brand of technical excellence. Germany is a brand of technical excellence. Everything they produce, Swiss watches, German cars, Japanese computers, all of this. Over the decades, they have branded themselves as the experts in this field, in one field, or in one area. Turkey isn't there yet, from my perspective. And part of it is, when you send products out, what is the communication that you send to them? You send a product.
First of all, I get the call. First of all, I call them. I said, okay, my name is HVAC-R, I come from Turkey. We produce heat filters for blah blah blah, hospitals, clinics, and I try to explain more business to the person.
All right, so they do price early?
Until the price. After I choose the company, first of all, I have set the catalog firstly. We transfer or email. Then I call later and I said, okay, I'm the person who sent you to the catalog, and I will then introduce my company to you. Do you have interest? Where I call from? Can you say again? I said, from Turkey. Yeah, sorry, we're not interested.
Do you think anybody else sent them a catalog?
Yes, we do.
And no, any of your competition, do you think your competition sent them a catalog and made a phone call?
I think so.
Yeah, they did. So again, it comes down to brand. You can, and you don't have to wait for Turkey to become big in the U.S. Your opportunity is you have a company that produces.
I mean, we have a video in the YouTube, for example. I'll share the video as well. So there's I try to introduce them. Please look at our video. We are a real company. We are a real producer. So look at the other companies. There's no big difference. Maybe we are much better than them, but there's just.
I'm gonna do it quick. If I came up to you and said, "Hi, you can trust me," what do you think?
I have to know you.
Ah, so it's brand. This is it, trust me, I have the best product. It's better. Do you believe me?
Not the response. First of all, I have to take the sample, I have to check it, taste it, after then I can say it's okay.
Yeah, but during that process, we're communicating, right? So we talk. You show up, you go over there, you look at what you have as a plus. What do you have to leverage from Turkey? You have the perception that it's exotic here. This is exotic.
And the problem is the competitors. For example, they have nothing in hand. But as Turkey, they ask, you have this certificate, you have this certificate, you have this certificate. But when I look at the competitors, they have nothing in hand. Why are they looking for minus product from Turkey to try not to get in the market?
Because you need to establish trust. You need to establish that brand awareness and that trust that you are going to take care of it. Now, everything you said, it's not for money, right?
No.
Your product is similar price. That means they don't trust you, or they're not sure about you emotionally.
It's not about the company, it's not about the country.
It's emotion.
It's from Turkey.
Right, because it's unknown. So one of the best, I think, more or most relatable brand instances is that how many people here are dating or married? Lots of people. When you got married or when you're dating, that's brand. That is all that is. You have said, I want to marry you. And all right, how do I present myself? How do I make my brand? Because there are a lot of other guys that are surrounding a lot of other girls all over the place.
What do you know about others of them?
You have to find that special thing about you and about your company. So, and it is not product spec, it is not video, it is not, here are certifications. Those are all support mechanisms. When you're dating, when you're getting married, it is all about, how do you feel about me emotionally? Not logic. Dating is not, marriage is not necessarily a logical decision. It's an emotional decision. And Sheila had to get over an awful lot of logical issues with me to marry me. But she did. And emotionally, we seem to be more or less okay. Okay. That's what you have to do with your company. You're out there, you're dating people. You have to get them to get past, okay, it's a product from Turkey, we don't know about Turkey. You're selling into a market that is saturated with US companies, Japanese, German, French, all of these companies. So, what's your benefit? What is a way to make yourself stand out? Trust is built by talking to people. So your communication, when you said video, and let me know if I'm wrong, that video shows the factory, it shows the production processes, does it show people?
Yeah.
Like people enjoying your product, people's lives being made better?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I would actually like to see that. Because a lot of the communication, and my apologies, when I flip through the journals, I am constantly amazed at how little emotion is involved in the sales. And partially that could be engineers are going, you don't need the emotion. You just need to tell about what it is. Back to the dating thing, if I would have told Sheila, listen, here are my logical benefits, I don't think I would have gotten there. But the emotional, she went, okay, this works. It's the same thing with a company. So look at a publication that is aimed at consumers, just general consumers. Versus HVAC.
You have to trust Turkey.
Greg, this is coming more.
We can talk more.
You can talk afterwards, okay? I'm sure you're
I'm sorry.
after, okay.
I love these.
Greg, I have a question for you. Do you see any heating, ventilation, air conditioning in this room? Where is the ventilation in this room?
It's hidden beautifully.
See, our sector is kind of, I don't know, we have some marketing because the end user never sees our products. I mean, I'm sure some companies in our sector, they produce things that you can touch it and see it and use it, but most of them are hidden. So, I mean, I am sure our marketing needs should be a little different than a product that finds the end customer directly, like a computer, like a car. So what would you suggest us? How should we be branding hidden products?
I chose the example of Intel, the chips inside the computer, specifically because your equipment is hidden. You don't see it, people don't think about it, they only are aware of it when it doesn't work. Intel managed to go from a completely hidden product to a product that people cared about. And if you ask the people that bought the computer that had the Intel chip logo on the outside, and ask them why did you buy this computer? They said, it's got an Intel chip. If you dug deeper, there would be nothing there in their logic at all. They were communicated to emotionally. They were told and spoken with, not to, but with, that this chip makes your life better. It's not getting into the specs, it's not getting into the price, it's not getting into anything that is logical. It is, this product makes your life better. And of course they showed images of how your life is better. But they took a product that is commodity driven, that is hidden, and turned it into something that people wanted. Logic is not your friend in selling. It never has been. You think about the car you drive. What kind of car do you drive?
I don't have a car.
Beautiful. Okay, who has a car? You have a car? What do you drive? BMW. Why did you choose BMW?
Sporty.
All right, it's sporty. How does it make you feel when you get into it? How does it make you feel? It's sporty. You want to be perceived as someone who's sporty. You want to be able to get into it, and you show people, and they go, "Ooh, he's sporty. He is." It's emotion. You didn't buy it because of price. You could have bought a car at a tenth of the price that would still get you from point A to point B. But what that cheap car could not do is it could not project what you want to project. So within this world, you have your hidden systems, you have something that is taken for granted, but that gives you a huge opportunity to communicate with your customers. So first, who are your customers? Are they the people that would be attending a conference? That's the end. Your customer is going to be the person who's building or running. What's going to make them feel good about this? What is going to make them decide that, wow, your Turkish equipment, yeah, absolutely, this is phenomenal. It's perfect. And there are hurdles with yours specifically, in that you have to get past an unknown. They don't know you. So think about how you can communicate with them, how they can get to know you. And it starts personal, one-to-one. It doesn't start countrywide, it doesn't start geographically. It starts, I trust him. He's awesome. He is here, he's talking to me, he has communicated with me.
Relationship.
It is relationship building. So there's a great opportunity. So one-on-one, that always works. All of your product, all of the communication that you have after that has to support that conversation. So however you're presenting yourself, that is how all of your brochures, your websites, etc., your videos, they all have to communicate, not this is our factory, but that relationship. Some of my favorite communications for products or scenery don't have people in them. Or I've done a lot of work with home builders, and I hated putting in pictures of houses, because if I put in a picture of a house, and here's this house for sale in this area of town, I have just allowed the customer to filter me. Because they could look at it and go, well, it's not the right size, it's not the right color, it's not the right style. So instead of showing the product, I show the emotion. You have a kid running down the hallway, out of a bath. All right, and this ad was actually, the kid was naked, he had a kid butt. He's running down. But what that did is that allowed people to go, that's home. That's not a house, that's home. That's what they're buying. They're buying a home, not a house. So, are they buying HVAC equipment? They're not buying HVAC equipment. They're buying trust. They're buying, it's going to run beautifully. And then their customers are going to be comfortable. They're not going to complain. It will be cheaper to run, all of these things. But those are always secondary. So my challenge to you all is how do you change HVAC from HVAC into comfort, into life? How does this help somebody live their life? Not how much does it cost, where does it come from, all of these things. What makes this product essential for them to have a better life? A more aspirational, more relaxed, whatever phrase you want to put in there. How can your equipment do that?
Okay, we have another question here.
Hi, this is Abdul from Oaklief. My question is basic, I just wanted to know the relationship between time and branding. In my marketing class, I heard that it takes years to build a brand, but it can be destroyed immediately, like we have this example of Volkswagen, Dieselgate, so I just wanted to understand from you.
I'm sorry, the difference between brand and...
the relationship between time and brand. How long it takes to build a brand and how...
Timing in brand. He's asking timing in brand. Timing. How long does it take to create a brand? Right? This is the question. How long does it take to create a brand? Timing in brand. That's a good phrase.
That is a great question.
You can use it.
It is. It is. So it's a very broad question. So you look at how long does it take a country to build a brand? Decades. Absolutely decades. How long does a city take to build a brand? Decades. How long does it take one person to build a brand? Not very long. And we could sit down and we could be talking, and hopefully within 10 minutes you would go, okay, I don't trust you yet, but okay, we can continue to talk. So it's anywhere within that decades to 5 minutes. From a company standpoint, I usually don't expect to see like a brand awareness, and this is assuming that the company is committed to communicate effectively and regularly with their customers and prospective customers a year. It's usually a fairly good amount of time. Brand is very fluid, and again, it's not an exact science. We go with the best information we have, and that's information coming from you, coming from customers, and we try to come up with a way to communicate with them that gets a response. So we would do a campaign. It would be pushed out to all the media. We would see what the reaction is. We would listen to customers, and then we would adjust. And you keep adjusting. And that just goes on and on and on. It's not a beginning. Does that answer your question? Yeah, kind of. It's fuzzy, but depending on the situation, super quick or long time. And you look at, it was perfect you asked all these great questions. The Germany comment, they had to overcome World War II, but they changed their brand from we want to take over the world to we produce the best equipment in the world. It's taken, what, 80 years?
I know it takes a little time, but when we start, then we work more than 5 years together.
It's very much a one-on-one to begin with.
No question? No question?
Oh, come on.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh,
okay. Greg, thank you so much. I think Greg is around a little bit. If you can catch him during lunch dinner, so you can ask him more questions. And thank you so much for this beautiful. We have a little gift for you, Greg. I guess, yeah. We have a little gift for you. The gift will be presented to you by our Turkish Export Assembly Vice President, Mr. Zeki Poyraz.
For coming and giving us a speech. Thank you so much. This was my personal invitation. And I am glad that he accepted and that we got
Inspiration. We got inspired. We got inspired with your existence. This is Thai. He's almost. Greg, you come to stage with flip-flops, he's giving you a tie. So I know there's a message there. Use the tie.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Zaki.
Okay, sorry. Greg, next time if you come again to Turkey, I'll buy you a pair of flip-flops, a crocs.
We're part of family.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
This is for Denver. It's a cold place. So this will keep you warm. This will keep you warm, Greg.
It's perfect.
You can use it on stage. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Do you think he needs a talk show?
No.
Look at him. It's the suit. We could do it together.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Have a lovely one.